Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well today. So in today's video I'm going to be doing a bit of a running glossary, terms of running, and basically giving you a lowdown on different names and types of run. So when you first start running, you know, you literally just go out and you just want to put one foot in front of the other. You've got a time-based goal, so you either want to run for 30 minutes or you're trying to hit that 5k. Then you get a little bit more involved in running, you start following people online on Facebook and Instagram, and you realise there's a whole different vocabulary of running terms out there. And you thought, I thought I was just going for a run, but now there's easy runs, progression runs, there's intervals, FARTLEK, long runs, what's going on? So I thought I'd talk you through all of the different running terms and basically give you a bit of a lowdown on them, what they are and where to use them in your training. So we're going to get straight into it, and we're going to start off with an easy run. And an easy run is essentially that. It should be easy, it should feel comfortable, you should be able to hold a conversation, and there's like a kind of rule of thumb where your heart rate should be lower than on your other sort of speed sessions. So, you know, there are different zones you can train in. There's a whole new world to do that, but for me and my clients, I really like to ask them to work on effort and really sort of start to understand their body. So as long as you're feeling easy, you can talk throughout, and you're enjoying it, that's a sign of an easy run. So then also after that we have what we call a recovery run, and a recovery run is similar to an easy run, but it may be kind of slightly slower than an easy run. Recovery runs you normally use after a interval session or sort of a long run, and they basically are to try and recover from that last session. So you go a little bit slower, you take it nice and easy, try and keep that heart rate low. And the idea is to basically get the blood pumping around the body again and get yourself ready for the next session. So that's always kind of what a recovery run should be. You might feel quite tight and stiff to start off with, but by the end of the run, if you feel a bit more loose and you feel better, then basically that's the recovery run done. Now with easy and recovery runs, I would say that there's like, sometimes people can get like hooked up on a pace on what they should be. However, that is dictated by how you're feeling on that day, and there's many different factors that can affect your pace, and that could be what the training has been in the last few days or the last week or so, how much sleep you got the night before, what time of day it is. Some people perform better in the morning than in the evening, so it shouldn't always be to a set pace, but it should be based more on effort. And you know, don't worry if your easy run is like a minute slower than what it was the last week. You know, you just have to take it what it is, as long as you keep it easy, recover from the last session, because basically the point of every run, it should be then to help you to the next run and get to the next level. So next up we have the long run. Now this is normally typically done on a Sunday, just because that's when most people have time. However, if you have most time on a Wednesday or a Friday, then you do your long run then. Now long runs can be anything from, say example, like 4 miles all the way up to 20 miles plus. If you are running a couple of times a week and you're doing 3k, then 4 miles is going to be a long way to you. So 4 miles can be your long run. If you're training more for a marathon, then you will hit sort of 20 miles or plus once at least, if not a couple of times within your marathon training block, depending on your experience as a runner. And the idea of it is to take it again, probably I ask a lot of my clients to go at an easier pace so that you can sustain the effort throughout the run. Also as well, by working in that sort of lower heart rate zone means that you're going to build your aerobic endurance, and that's what you need for some of these long distance events. When you start to get a bit more experience, you can then chuck in some speed play into there. You can do like a workout kind of session, so you can do some speed stuff, working at either sort of like your marathon or your half marathon pace, dependent on what your goal is, and obviously, like I said again, based on your experience. But for me, long runs are about getting out there on a weekend, hopefully normally running with friends, and just picking a really good route and just enjoying it. I haven't done too many long runs which are kind of workout based, but that's because I find taking it more of an easier pace and running with friends, I just absolutely love it, especially through the summer. A bit more difficult in winter, but yeah, trying to get out there with a group is really, really good for the long runs. Just going to explore the area, basically. Next up, we have intervals. Now, these are kind of probably one of my favourite sessions of the week. So to talk through the typical sort of format of an interval session, you do an easy kind of pace warm-up. You then sometimes do some drills, things like high knees, heel flicks, side bounds, accelerations, high knee skips. Then you'll do the actual interval workout itself. You'll take a little bit of a rest recovery, and then you'll get into a cool down again, which is at an easier pace. The idea obviously is to warm up and cool down the body either side to help prevent injury and get yourself ready for the session. And the middle section is the workout. So intervals can be done based on either time or distance, and it's basically a harder effort period of running followed by a bit of rest, which I love. So some people like to take sort of like a static or a walk-in recovery, and some interval workouts you can then include sort of like a jog recovery, as they call it. So I ask clients to take more of like a walk recovery rather than a jog recovery, just so that means that they can hit the full session and the requirements of it. If you do a bit of a jog recovery, it is a lot harder to recover, and it may mean that your sort of pace suffers towards the end. You know, intervals are all about being able to run faster, get used to dialing into that pace, but also as a confidence boost. Being able to run faster, look at your splits afterwards and see that pace is a real confidence boost. So I would probably recommend a walk recovery. There's different ways you can add the jog recovery in, but for me, let yourself have some rest. So yeah, intervals, typically sort of maybe only one session a week. I tend to put them in, again, it's all dependent on what your training weeks looks like, but most of my clients either do their intervals on a Monday or a Tuesday. If they've make sure that you keep a day of rest in between, or easy day between sort of a long run if you're doing it at the weekend, and then your intervals. I wouldn't recommend doing the two back to back, just open yourself up to injury. Next up, we have the famous tempo run. Now, if you followed me for a while, you'll know that tempo runs used to be my least favourite session of the week. I'm getting better at them now, and that's probably just my mindset and my attitude towards them. So tempo runs are basically running comfortably uncomfortable, or uncomfortably comfortable. No, comfortably uncomfortable. So you have to feel uncomfortable, but you should then also be able to sustain that effort, basically. So tempo runs can be anything sort of like 2 miles up to around 6 miles, and it's running at a pace which feels comfortably uncomfortable. Now for me, I kind of ask most clients to run it around their half marathon pace, like their target half marathon pace or around that. So again, depending on where you are in your training, it might feel a bit different, but the idea is to sort of understand what that half marathon pace feels like, run that little bit harder in training, but again, by not fatiguing yourself too much. They are tough because obviously you are meant to feel uncomfortable, and they are for a sustained period of time, but you can use them in different ways. So, you know, sometimes I ask people to do 3 by 10 minutes, 2 by 20 minutes, and then typically a lot of clients do either like 3, 4, 5 or 6 miles tempo with a cool down and warm up either side. Or a warm up and cool down either side. So they are hard, but they give you a good sort of indication of where you're at in your training, and also what your sort of target half marathon pace would be. Now, I think what would happen in the past is that I would try to run all of my runs at that target half marathon pace, and that is known as threshold. So threshold is more of a race pace, so it's more sort of between 10k and half marathon pace. And I think in the past I have just run like really hard at all of my tempo sessions because I was just trying to hit a pace rather than going by feel. So again, I try to go a bit more by feel rather than pace. So another type of speed play is what we call a progression run, and I quite like these. I put these into my clients' training plans quite a lot. Either this or a tempo run, but progression runs are basically a set amount of time or distance. So for example, it could be a 5 mile progression run. Basically you start off easy, and then each mile or kilometre you get quicker throughout the run. By the end of the run you should be running at a fairly decent quick pace, but not to the point where it's like max out effort. And the last sort of kilometre or mile should start to feel quite tough. But the idea is that you build the pace into it, change the gears slightly as you go into it, and just get that pace down. So it's also about sort of like helping yourself understand to start off easy and build into the run, rather than starting off too quickly and then fading at the end. Next up, we have what we call FARTLEK. Now, I don't do these sessions too often, but this is sort of like, it's a Swedish term for speed play. Now, you could go out for a run and then you could be out running on a redway and then there's lampposts, and basically you could say I'm going to sprint to the next lamppost, and then I'm going to jog for 3 lampposts, and then I'm going to sprint 2, and then I'm going to jog 1, and then I'm going to sprint another 1, and then jog 2. And it's kind of like that, so it's like mixing up the speed within your run. Now I've done it before where I've just been out on a run, and I think I was doing like an hour, and I was starting to get, I think I was about like halfway, if not a little bit more through the session, and I was starting to get bored, if I was being honest. So what I did is I did exactly that. I just started to sprint for a little bit, like maybe only sort of like 20 seconds or so, and then I would jog, and it just helped me break up the run, and I actually felt quite good at the end for it, and it was just something different. And because there was no set time to it, it was just like, okay, I'm going to run for as fast as I can for as long as I can, and then I'm going to jog a little bit more, and it just helped sort of speed the run up and just kept me a bit occupied, I think, out of boredom. But sometimes with fartlek, they say that, you know, it's meant to be sort of sporadic and you just change, but then also with fartlek you can have sessions which you kind of set, so it could be a minute faster, 1.5 minute jog recovery, 2 minutes faster, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 30, and then you can repeat that sort of like 3, 4, 5 times. So there's ways of setting it up, but then there's also ways of just doing it if you just want to go out for a run. It's just quite easy to change the pace as you go along, so they're quite good fun, those ones. And then last but not least, we have what we call is strides. Now these can get quite confused with like sprints, and the whole idea is that it's not like a max effort sprint, like a 100-meter sprint on a track. Strides you can use, so they're kind of similar to acceleration, so you can use them before you do your interval session, but strides are normally typically done before an interval session, or say before a race, and they are short bursts of effort, anywhere between sort of like 15 to 20 seconds, and the idea is to run faster than your sort of normal interval pace, or around your interval pace, but focusing more on form and also your posture. So like getting the stride pattern right, working those arms, keeping your posture upright, and basically then helping you to dial into a faster pace. So they're good fun to do. They shouldn't really wear you out too much like intervals do, so you should, but it's about running faster, but like without the long recovery time. So sometimes put them into a client's training plan, say for example if they are doing a race the next day and they might do an easy run the day before, so 20 to 30 minutes, and get them to do sort of like 5 or 8 strides just at the end of their run, feeling good, pumped and ready for the race the next day. So there's the different types of run. We've got easy runs, long runs, intervals, tempos, fartlek, progression and strides. So hopefully now you know a little bit more about the different types of runs. Basically you want to be mixing up your training. You want to be trying to include a variety of those different things. But you know, for me typically, intervals on a Tuesday, Thursday is sort of like a tempo session, Sunday's a long run, and then I kind of intersperse other easy runs in around that. So you know, you kind of want to be making sure you get those speed sessions in, and then if you want to build up your mileage around that, then they become the easier runs as well. So sometimes as well I'll chuck in another session on a Saturday, which is kind of a mix between intervals and tempo, but you know, it's taken me a while to be able to build up to doing 3 sessions a week, because before I would just do 2, but doing 3 is quite a lot of impact on the body. So yeah, you just have to play around with it. Intervals put a lot more strain on the body, so if you are wanting to include a speed session in there, I'd probably go for more of like a progression run to start off with, or a bit of a tempo run, running a bit more like steadier, you know, rather than that real sort of quick transition of pace for intervals. So you know, on an injury rehab journey, you kind of pop a tempo run or progression run in there first before you introduce the intervals. But you know, there's lots of fun to be had with all of these sessions, and you know, the idea of them is to mix them into your training to help you become a stronger, fitter and faster runner. So let me know what you think, let me know what your favourite type of running session is, and I look forward to catching you in the next one.